Hello, fellow timekeepers. We have a special edition of the pod for you. I had the privilege of attending a Oris event at a London Watch Week, and part of the meeting was talking to Lena, the designer of the new Artelier. I asked her about how she selected the three colorways, the midnight blue, the classic white, and my favorite, the sort of orangey brown version, which they call a chestnut. And I'm very tempted to add the Artelier to my collection. And I got to see some of her sketches of how the Artelier came to life, as well as some of the dial prototypes, and including an amazing green dial version. We know on the pod how much we love green dials here, and I'd love to see that enter production one day. We also chatted about how she became a watch designer, despite not originally being interested in watches, and how long design to production actually took for the Artelier, which was surprisingly only 12 months, which, like I said, I thought it'd be a lot longer, but it just goes to show how long it takes to design something and bring it through to production. She also mentioned that her Grail watch, to me, was the new Reverso in gold with that incredible mesh bracelet. And I'm sure she'll sell enough Arteliers for a healthy bonus to afford that sometime soon. And also, Lena designed the Holstein 2026 edition, and like I said, which comes out every year. And it was her suggestion as the designer to use the laser method seen on the Pro Pilot that came out a few years ago for the Oris Bear to appear on the case back with it being lasered on. And it shimmers so much in the light, lots of different colors. I think the concept and application is very playful indeed. And for the event itself, it was such a neat touch for Oris to showcase their design during the pitch for the watch. I think more watch brands should do the same. And like I said, Lena was really, really down to earth. And then Rolf Studer, the CEO, made an appearance at the event and was fully involved in the night, mixing it with everyone. However, the super exciting part for me was during the day. I was one of the lucky people to actually interview Rolf for this very podcast. He was such a nice gent, as I said, giving up his valuable time as a leader of a top watch company. My love for Oris runs so deep, and hopefully you'll get to see that, as we go through the interview. And I really wanted to get into the mind of a watch CEO, and specifically Oris, and how the company ticks. Look, for me, it was a dream come true. When we kicked off the Timekeepers, part of the business plan that we drafted was interview a CEO. Mission accomplished. So here I am, giving back to you, our listeners, and I want you to enjoy the rest of the show. Good morning, fellow timekeepers. I'm delighted to welcome Rolf Studer, the CEO of Oris, to the Timekeepers podcast. So hello, thank you for keeping time with us. It's really great that you're...
Tim, good to have you here in our London boutique.
Love it. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And we've actually met once before, haven't we? We were at a Lord's event a number of years ago when Oris were the official timekeepers. And I'm just thinking, how have you been? You said you flew into the US a few days before, but you're with us and you're going to be doing a big event this evening as well, I take it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's nice to be back in the UK. I haven't been here in a while, but there's always good energy. It's London Watch Week, so it's a good moment to celebrate mechanical watches, to meet fellow watch enthusiasts and talk about watches.
Wonderful. Excellent. So before we get into the conversation, I just want to say I'm a huge Oris fan, so I'm delighted that I'm able to do this today. But I'll try not to fanboy too much, so definitely keep me in check. But there's one reason for it, and it's like one of the first episodes that we had of the Timekeepers. I was detailing why I love Oris. And that is the big crown pointed date that I've got here. I bought this 4 or 5 years ago, and in the bronze with the green dial, the joy I felt buying it. It was my first sort of proper watch, as it were. How proud I was of being able to do that. The joy of wearing it, and it's my go-to in sort of my collection. And I've said it before. It's got the cathedral hands. It's got the symmetry. The bezel, the red pointed date that I absolutely love, and I like how the green changes in the light. And again, this is a bit niche and very geeky, but even like the 4 you can see with the shapely 4 there. So small little touches that make the watch for me absolutely incredible and why I love it.
We have a sweater where that 4 is the
Yes.
main feature.
Yes.
Maybe we should get you that one.
Well, absolutely. I would love to see that. Yeah. And like I said, I've always said, could I ever own 2 of the same watch? I think I actually could do for this pointer date. So I think it's the blue Cerro Volante one that you have. It's a wonderful blue color, and it's stunning. I think there's a Fratello, like ox. Is it blood ox? What you had a couple of years ago? Yeah. Ox blood. Again, I'd love that one too. So maybe I could have 3 of the same watch, but it's so lovely. But what do you think of the Big Crown pointer date? Is that one of your favorite watches?
Well, the pointer date is our signature complication. We have been making it since 1938. And yeah, the more I see it, the more I like it. The beautiful thing about a pointer date is that you don't have to cut that hole in the dial, right? There is symmetry on the dial. You have this additional hand. You have the possibility to work on the design of that hand. Here it is in that classic red. In the Cerro Volante that you just mentioned, the hand is in blue, or the pointer of the hand is in blue. And yeah, it's one of the things that makes Oris, together with the knurled bezel, this is signature Oris.
Like I said, absolutely love it. And that 4 that we just talked about earlier, just these small touches are incredible. So just moving to an easy second question. So what's your favourite Oris watch and why? Obviously, huge collection, but I'm sure you must have one favourite. I don't know if you've got it here, but I think Natasha was talking about that one. So, yeah.
This is absolutely not an easy question. It's like if you have to make a choice between your children, right?
Very true.
Maybe my favorite Oris watch. Well, one I'm wearing now. This is caliber 115. Our skeleton in-house movement watch. 10 days power reserve, non-linear power reserve indication, hand winding. Another one of my favorites is caliber 473. That's our in-house pointer date, hand winding, small seconds. Complication. Why is it my favorite? Because this layout we have been doing for decades, right? That was the original small second pointer date, hand winding, but caliber 473 adds a power reserve indication on the back of the movement, which is one of my favorite complications. Then it has this beautiful powder blue dial, 38 millimeters. It's just an everyday watch with the Cerro Volante strap that ages patina so beautifully. This is one of my most worn pieces. Then what we just relaunched at Watches and Wonders this year is caliber 113. Again, a pointer complication, but here pointer weak.
Very good.
So you have that pointer hand, but it doesn't turn once a month, but once a year, very slow. To me, almost philosophical.
Of course, yeah.
I remember when I got it, when we launched it, 2017, the original version of that movement. It was March, still Basel World. Yes. And then towards the end of the year, realized, okay, now you gotta really hurry up if you want to get the things done you want to get done, right? And the day, small second, and of course the non-linear power reserve indication, which is a patent of Oris on that dial. The non-linear indication created by these 2 snail gears that you see on the back of the watch, together with that huge main barrel containing the spring that gives the 10 days energy for this watch. A nice touch here also is the cordovan strap.
That's lovely.
To me, cordovan is contemporary alligator. It's just a different touch than to a normal half leather, very high quality strap. If you have cordovan shoes, you know the qualities of cordovan. It doesn't break. It wrinkles.
I love green dial watches as well, so it's incredible for that.
And that pistachio green on that dial just makes it my favorite release of Oris for this year. Yes.
Wonderful. And my next question is, I think Oris are sort of killing it with dull colours and combinations. You've got the cotton candy versions. I love how radical you are compared to, say, more conservative, watch brands and sort of the main industry players. So you're known for sort of adding daring colours to various models. But I want to know how the colours actually get chosen. Is there like a panel? Do you get to choose them alone? It'd be good for our listeners to understand how those, how you went for, say, a cotton pink or those yellows. It'd be fascinating for our listeners to understand that process.
Well, we are one of the few remaining independent watch brands, and being independent is one of the key elements of who we are. And being independent means that you basically can do what you think is right for the brand, and the only one responsible to is the brand and the long-term development of the brand. And within that, you're free to choose what you want. And there is not a board that makes the decisions, but it's a small group of people. And we also like to listen to the community. The community is very important to us as a brand. And a lot of inspiration comes from talking to people and hearing what they say and what they would like to see. And then we are there around the table, and there are all these colors and dial options. And then we say, okay, let's do that. Let's, for example, do Chestnut on the new Artelier.
It's my favorite one.
A bit more subtle than colors that we have brought the year before with the Big Crown Original, but also this is a more classic watch. So you see, this is the thought process. Okay, a bit more classic, a bit more dressy maybe, but still standing out a little bit, still a color that makes people look at your wrist and speaking to you about, hey, what is that watch?
Definitely.
And this is how we do it, out of love for watches, out of love for the brands, out of the ethos that a watch, you don't need it, you must want it, and color plays an important part in that decision.
Definitely. So should we move on to the Artelier? I mean, can you tell our listeners a bit more about why the moon phase made a comeback? These are sort of more muted tones compared to, like I said, the popping colours of others. And sort of in summary, the process of how the revision of the watch came about.
Yeah, Artelier is a very classic, long-standing part of the Oris line. The past few years were a bit more sporty. Now we brought back Artelier in, I think, a fresh, new way, still keeping it the classic watch it is, but very contemporary. Our youngest designer, Lena, was working on that, and I think she did a fantastic job. It's not only the colors, it's also the new approach or the fresh eyes that worked on that most classic line of Oris. Here in the complication, we have, of course, the moon phase that makes it the complication, but also the second time zone at 6 o'clock in that two-tone dials.
I love the two-tone dial. Yeah, makes it really stand out.
The different patterns, that's disc pattern on the sub-dials, the grain pattern on the main part of the dial, then another different pattern on the outer part of the dial. The indices that are taken from watches we made in the 60s. Personally, I think very good proportions on the case. A new bracelet on that Artelier. And it's a watch that wears with everything, wears with more classic clothing, also wears with a t-shirt, and just a nice collection of new watches that make the new Artelier collection.
Definitely. I think the blue will be sort of a favourite of a lot of people, but I do like the Chestnut one. I think I love an orange style watch, so it's beautiful. And so just sticking with sort of Lena, can you say a bit more about the young product designer? I read her interview about the watch where she talked about creating a more sort of youthful, urbane audience with the watch. I mean, and what about Oris more broadly, like supporting young designers? Do you think that's important? And is that going to be a shift going forward for Oris in terms of getting more youth and more sort of new ideas?
Well, I think it's more about the mindset than about the age. Mm-hmm. It's about being curious. It's about your desire to explore, mm-hmm. to look at things from a different angle. That really also makes Oris, right? And when you have new people that have a fresh approach to things, mm-hmm. you have that even more. And Lena certainly is that. And giving her the task, the responsibility to work on such an important line as the Artelier, yes, it is a bold move, but I think the result speaks for itself. And I think this is also very Oris. We are not a huge team, so everybody needs to contribute. And that's also what I say in job interviews. I tell people, look, if you're someone that rather prefers to be in the background, prefers to hide to some extent, then this is not going to be your job, because it will be very obvious very soon if you like to bring change, if you like to contribute. And this is what we need. And Lena is a very good example of someone who came to Oris, understood who we are, brought her own point of view into it, and now her watch is there being sold around the world. What a privilege is that?
It's a great honor. Yeah, it's incredible. Leaving a mark as well. It's brilliant. So moving to sort of more sort of business brand questions, if I may. So, how does Oris plan to sort of expand sort of into the future? Would it be through a new model, dipping back into its catalogue for inspiration, perhaps new markets, or even a new generation? Just keen to understand where you, as CEO, would like the business to go in the next few years.
Well, staying true to who we are, continuing to exploring things, pushing forward on the technical side, on the design side, on the stories we tell. There is really not one single thing. It is bringing Oris forward, bringing it into the future, brand that has 120 years of history, that is independent, that is community oriented, that has been a advocate of sustainability as a 360 degrees approach for a very long time. And this is how we are going to conquer the future.
Do you have sort of a biggest prediction in the next 5 years for the watch world? If you've got a crystal ball, as CEO, you've got a wide view of sort of the market. Do you have sort of a prediction that might happen? I love those sorts of questions for people in industry. So one or two things.
Well, so many things changed over the past few years. When the pandemic came, we were all preparing for the worst in our industry. And who would have thought that this would be the best times ever for mechanical watches, right? So people didn't spend their money on hospitality, on holidays. They had time to read all the blogs, watch all the videos, and then buy the watches from the e-shop.
That's what I did with the points date.
See, right?
Product.
Then the next phase has been a bit more challenging because people traveled again, went out again. Now we see it's coming back. What is the future bringing? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Of course, I have some ideas, and we try to sense and adopt that. I think Artelier is one of these things. Things get a bit more classic again, but still you need to be contemporary within that more classic spirit that we have at the times. And yes, we always, this is the core of what we have to do to stay relevant with the products that people don't need but want, and to create that energy around it that at the end makes them spend their money on these objects of love at the end, and to create that love, to create that passion. This is my job, and this is what I try to do, not only for a living, but also for a passion.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's a bold move with the Artelier, but I think it's absolutely perfect, and it's really speaking to me, and I'm sure it will speak to thousands of other people as well. And like I said, just sticking with business, like as a business leader, I'm very keen to understand sort of how you keep morale high and encourage your team to sort of reach new heights. So sort of away from watches, but just as a businessman, and you want your business to thrive, but you need the team behind you. So just a few perhaps insights into sort of your leadership and how you do that.
Being independent is a huge privilege. And I think it also forms and informs the team that we are independent. Being independent doesn't just mean that you don't belong to a group or that you don't depend on a bank. It's an attitude. And this to me is the most important thing. I don't want to create an opinion. I want to create an attitude. I want to have that same spirit, and then everyone can remain themselves. And when you can do that, you can give 120% because you don't have to bend. I don't want people to bend. When you're independent, you really need to go that extra mile, and you only can do that with an absolutely dedicated team of warriors that are out there and fight against the big guys. And we do have that because everybody can stay true to their own beliefs while fighting for the same thing.
Definitely, warrior mentality. I like it. I'm just going to ask: is there one thing that you, if you could change about the watch industry for the better, what would it be? Is there one thing you think, oh, I don't really like that, and if it was different, the world would be a better place?
Well, I change the things that I can change, and I don't worry about the things I cannot change. This is, in my opinion, the best way to use your energy. Still, sometimes maybe I would love a little bit more substance and a little bit less just the surface. Yes. I think the last years certainly have helped that people like you and your audience are exactly there, knowing much more about mechanical watches actually than just about the marketing around it. And I think this will also help the industry, because at the end it's about the product and it's about the substance that makes it a mechanical watch.
No, definitely. I think for me, there's a lot of sort of like hate towards certain brands, which I don't like. The whole point of this podcast is celebrating the love of watches. So I think that's one thing that I'd personally change. Let's just celebrate all watches. So,
yes, and I think this is a very important point that you make. In luxury, in a classic perspective, we are still in the industry, one of the few industries that hasn't overcome feudalist times.
Yes.
Right? Yes. You're still there bowing to the king, feeling great, not realizing that you're not free. Yeah. Oris is the opposite of that. We are the citoyen, the citizen of this industry. We are the product of the Age of Enlightenment that fights exactly against that. We don't want to create jealousy. We don't want to make people jealous. We want to share the joy and passion, and this is the future of mechanical watchmaking.
Amen to that. Very, very good. We've got some sort of listener interest that have come through, through various episodes we've had. And one of those was on sort of watch customization, specifically perhaps watch companies in-house. So I'm talking about sort of the consumer having more choice, perhaps on dial colors, case materials, the type of hands you could pick, even like the crowns on the side of the watches, and even the case back designs. Is there something that Oris would consider in the future?
It's a very interesting question. And it's very interesting from several points of view. First of all, as a brand, you need to have a message and the consistency. We talked about your Bikram pointer blade before. We talked about cathedral hands, the rayed pointer arrow. If people could just say, well, I want these hands to be different, that arrow should have another shape or another color, then it's not your brand and it's not your message anymore. Still, I appreciate that people customize our watches, that they change straps like you do, that they use a custom strap that gives it a different look. I also like these small independents that do custom things with us at our price point. We need a certain industrial logic behind it to be able to offer that level of watchmaking to that price. So to everyone, their thing. I like people playing with watches. We need to have a certain consistency in our message and also certain leadership.
Definitely, yeah.
But I appreciate any form of watch enthusiasm also if it's manifest in the product.
I think my point was like in-house customization. So you still retain control, but you'd have like 10 dial colors to pick from, or you could have like 3 or 4 of the pointer date colors, that kind of thing. So it's not full, customization by individuals, but allowing, a company that's more liberal like Oris to allow the consumer to make more choice, I think. Yeah.
It's certainly something we can think about with the pointer date, for example. There are quite a number of colors that you can choose from. We also do customization for partners we work with. So this is possible, but it's always a balance that you have to make.
Absolutely. And I'm a big fan of watch brand merchandise. I mean, who isn't? Which leads me to the Oris bear. Are there any plans for new items that may feature the bear? Hats, caps, jumpers, watch straps, perhaps? And I think there's a certain watch we've got here that you might like to talk about as well that I think is absolutely fantastic.
You are talking about the Holstein edition. Holstein edition is the watch we celebrate our birthday with, 1st of June every year. Every year, 250 pieces. This year in Artelier, as this was the key launch of this year, there's always the Oris bear on that watch. This is the only watch that has the Oris bear on it. This time on the case back. Last year it was on the dial. And we always play with the bear on merchandise. At Watches and Wonders this year, we had a small bear on a keychain as a gift. The same bear that we had the year before as a huge bear as a center point of our stand at Watches and Wonders. We used to have the Oris bear sweater that was a favorite of the community. You have it?
Yes, I'd actually love one. I would love one. So yes, I know they're highly sought after and highly prized. Yes. Yeah.
So we will make sure that we can sort that out. And people like the Oris bear because he stands for what we stand for. Watchmaking that's approachable, watchmaking that's actually obtainable, a sense of community, a sense of humor, an absence of pretension. The Oris bear, the bear, everyone has had a teddy bear, and you can't have a problem, you can't have an issue with that bear. It's pure emotion.
Absolutely.
And this is what watchmaking is about. It is about taking watchmaking serious, but not so much ourselves. And if that message comes across, then mission accomplished.
Absolutely. And that leads me to sort of my closeout question. Like, family is really important to me. I've got 3 young sons, and I know obviously you've got a family as well. And I want them to have a relationship with watches while exploring in their own way, not necessarily the way I do it, but the way they want to do it. And I got into watch collection as a means to have that sort of deeper connection with my family and perhaps hand down the collection in the future. But my question to you is, how do you think watch ownership can become a greater family experience in sort of a more modern era?
Yeah, well, watch enthusiasm, watch collection really has created that spirit of family, that spirit of community. And I think that's one of the greatest joys of collecting watches, that you have all these fellow enthusiasts to share that hobby, that passion with. And it can also become a family thing. For me, of course, it's a bit special because I work in this industry. My kids are 16 and 17 years old, and I see how they get into watches, and of course they like to wear the products that their dad works for, and of course they give me tips and say, look, you should do that, you should do this, and why did he do that? That doesn't look good. How could he come up with that idea?
Style tips, yeah.
So it's really a family thing, and well, as it should be, and this emotional aspect of watchmaking really is all fun.
Wonderful. Well, I think, Rolf, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And the listeners will absolutely love this. And it's been a pleasure. And I look forward to the evening with the boutique with yourself and Lena, and I'll be there for the talk. So everyone, so that's a wrap. I'm going to try and probably fail to not purchase one of the new watches. Lena's latest creation, that orange, that chestnut color, is absolutely beautiful. And like I said, do give the show, a like and a comment. Follow us on Timekeepers and Tim over at Watchwords. And I'll be at Hands-On Horology next week, and I'll be giving my thoughts on the show and watches available. Come say hello. So finally, thank you for keeping time with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim.